The situation was happened in whispers in the hall. The location was Black Hollow Boarding School, East Wing. The time was October 13th, 11:47 p.m. The van came to a crunching stop on the gravel drive, its headlights cutting through the fog like knives through old gauze. Trees loomed on either side of the road like petrified sentinels, their skeletal limbs clawing at the night. Behind the windshield, the students sat in heavy silence, staring at the imposing silhouette of the abandoned Black Hollow boarding school. The building was a behemoth of decayed stone and shattered glass, a three-story Gothic revival structure that had been closed down after a fire in 1977 took the lives of 13 students and one teacher. Though the fire had been mostly confined to the East Wing, the school was shuttered permanently and left to rot. Tonight, for the first time in nearly 50 years, its doors were about to open. "Okay, let me get this straight," said Jenna, her voice cracking the silence. "We're really going through with this?" "You agreed," replied Ash, pulling his backpack over his shoulder. "One night. We document the site, collect samples for Professor Granger's urban decay thesis, and we're out by sunrise." "Right," said Leo, lighting a cigarette with trembling hands. "Unless something eats us first." "That's not funny," muttered Elise, clutching her DSLR tightly. The group of 6 students, all seniors in the university's anthropology department, had chosen Black Hollow as their semester project location. It was the perfect case study, isolated, untouched, and buried under layers of rumor and myth. A low groan echoed from deep within the forest behind them. Everyone froze. "Coyote," said Ash, more to reassure himself than anyone else. "Let's go." The main doors, chained and padlocked, had already been clipped open. Ash insisted he found them that way. "Bullshit," muttered Leo. "Someone's already inside." "Maybe," said Elise, "or maybe someone wanted us to go in." The air inside was colder than outside, thick with the scent of mildew and old smoke. Their footsteps echoed too loudly. Dust clung to their boots, swirling in their flashlight beams like snow. Old portraits lined the walls, headmasters and founding donors, their eyes seeming to follow them with a silent accusation. One portrait had been slashed diagonally. Another was scorched and blackened. They stepped into the central atrium, once a grand cathedral-like space with vaulted ceilings and marble floors. Now, the ceiling sagged under years of water damage, and graffiti covered the walls in crude scrawls. A strange hush fell over the group. "Do you feel that?" whispered Elise. "What?" "The pressure. Like the air's watching." "You're imagining things," said Ash, though he felt it too. A prickle at the base of his neck. A hum beneath the floor. Then came the sound. Ding ding. A bell. Clear, sharp, and impossibly close. Everyone froze. "What the fuck was that?" asked Leo, backing against a collapsed bookshelf. "It sounded like a school bell," Jenna whispered. "But the bell tower was destroyed in the fire," Elise said, her voice barely audible. "They removed the clapper. I read that in the case files." Ash checked his watch. 12:13 a.m. The 13th minute past midnight. Despite every rule of horror logic screaming at them not to, the group crossed into the East Wing, stepping over charred wooden beams and broken tiles. The smell changed here. Less mildew, more copper and rot. The air felt warmer, but in an unnatural, breath on the back of your neck kind of way. "This wing shouldn't be structurally safe," muttered Ash, reviewing his notes. "It was condemned." "Then why is it still standing?" Jenna asked. They reached what had once been Classroom 13. Its door was mostly intact, though scorched. 13, Leo noted. Of course. Inside, the room was a museum of ruin. Burnt desks, blackboards smeared with ash. On one wall, faintly visible under layers of soot, someone had scrawled. What does that mean? Elise asked. Urban legend, Ash said. They say the bell tower rings on the anniversary. But only 13 times. Once for each victim. Then why did we hear it? Today's not the anniversary, Jenna said. Ash's face paled. He flipped through his notebook. Wait. The fire happened on October 13th. But the year was 1977. I assumed the anniversary was next week, because you forgot 2024 is a leap year, whispered Elise. The bell rang again. The sound didn't echo. It didn't fade. It reverberated through their bones. As they turned to leave, the classroom door slammed shut. Elise screamed. Leo pulled, kicked, and rammed the door, but it wouldn't budge. Then the whispers started. Soft. Sibilant. Like children chanting nursery rhymes backwards. Do you hear that? Jenna gasped. Shut up, Ash hissed. Everyone, shut up. They pressed their ears to the wall. The voices were inside. Let us out, whispered one, low and wet. It hurts, said another. Why did they lock the doors? We were so cold. So cold. The fire was warm. Jenna broke first. She bolted toward the blackboard and started clawing at the wall. They're in there. Behind here. They buried them. Jenna, stop. Leo grabbed her arms, but she writhed like something possessed. Suddenly the lights flickered. There were no lights. And then the bell rang again. Ding. A book flew off the desk, slamming into Elise's face. Blood. The whispers turned into shrieks. Ash held up his phone, trying to film, but the screen was black. No signal, he muttered. No battery. No time. Time. It's still 12:13. It hasn't moved. Leo threw a chair through the window, but the glass didn't shatter. It bent, like water. We're trapped, he whispered. We're in the 13th minute. The bell rang again. Ding. And this time, they weren't alone in the room. Blood in the boiler room. Location, Black Hollow basement level, boiler room hall. Time, still 12:13 a.m. No time progression. The classroom door swung open by itself. No creak. No draft. Just a slow, deliberate motion like something unseen had turned the knob from the other side. Leo backed away. Fuck this. No. I'm done. We have to keep moving, Ash said, his face white with terror. If the building is looping time, there must be a center. Some mechanism. Something keeping it locked. Jenna nodded numbly. Her fingers were still smeared with soot from the blackboard. Elise was bleeding from a gash just above her eyebrow but waved off help. I got it. Just keep going. They moved quickly through the hall, which now seemed subtly rearranged. Where a row of lockers had been, there was now a solid brick wall. Where a stairwell had led up, a steel door led down. Boiler rooms this way, Ash muttered. Should be. No one questioned him. The descent into the basement was like falling into a throat. The stairwell was narrow, the lights flickering faintly from old emergency bulbs. Each step down creaked like it would give way, but none did. When they reached the bottom, they found themselves in a wide corridor lined with old maintenance doors. Pipes lined the ceiling like vines, dripping. The floor was slick. At the end of the hall was a rusted door marked boiler access, authorized personnel only. There might be blueprints or old control schematics in there, Ash said. That's where they kept emergency procedures. We might learn how to stop this. They entered. The room was massive and circular. A rusted boiler stood at the center, encased in a web of pipes. But it wasn't the machinery that stopped them, it was the walls. Mirrors. From floor to ceiling, surrounding the boiler on all sides, were mirrors. Each one tall, rimmed in flaking bronze. Each one reflecting. Wrong. Elise stepped close to the nearest mirror. Wait, said Jenna. Look. Elise's reflection didn't move. It stared back identical in face, but not in motion. It smiled. And then it raised its hand and pointed toward the boiler. Elise turned. Nothing. But when she turned back, the mirror showed her reflection missing. The next afternoon, the campus was bathed in cold sunlight. Not warm, never warm, but bright enough to dispel shadows. Ash, Elise, Jenna, and Leo stood at the edge of the Black Hollow property line, staring at the building like it might breathe again. None of them had really slept. Elise's wound had clotted, but her face was pale and drawn. Ash hadn't said much all day. The burn across his palm itched constantly, a raw reminder that something unclean had passed through him. Jenna and Leo shared quiet looks, still not believing they'd escaped. We shouldn't be here, Jenna said. We have to know, Ash replied, eyes on the main door. Why us? Why now? That bell didn't just choose randomly. And if it's ringing again, others might go in. Elise nodded slowly. We stop it by understanding it, or we die trying, Leo muttered, but he followed. Beyond the 13th door was a narrow hallway made entirely of red brick. The air was dry now, crackling like static. Their flashlights flickered even when their batteries were fresh. The passage seemed to go on forever, curving slightly left every 10 paces. The bricks were etched with names, hundreds of them, all children's names. These are the fire victims, Elise said. All 13. But there are more. Dozens more. That doesn't make sense, Ash said. Only 13 were confirmed. Maybe not all were found. Jenna stopped. Listen. Footsteps. Light, barefoot, slapping wetly against the floor. From behind them. They turned. No one was there. Ash looked ahead. There was another door now, this one wooden, scorched black, with a school bell carved crudely into it. We shouldn't, Elise whispered. We have to, Ash said. If we don't finish the cycle. Maybe we never leave. Leo opened the door. It was a classroom, but not like any they'd seen. Half the room was destroyed, floorboards torn up, desks splintered. The ceiling above was open to a black void that pulsed with red light. The chalkboard read, "We never got out." In the corner stood 13 desks, each with a child seated. All of them skeletal. Some still wearing the melted remnants of uniforms. Their heads turned slowly to the group. One of the skeletons had no skull. Jenna collapsed. Elise screamed and dropped her camera. Ash stepped forward. They're waiting for something. On the teacher's desk was a bell. A small, brass handbell. Don't, Jenna said. Ash picked it up. It's the only way out. If I ring it? Maybe we reset the clock. He rang it. Nothing happened. Then the children moved. All 13 rose from their desks. They began to walk toward the group. "Run!" Leo yelled. They bolted out of the room, slamming the 13th door shut behind them. The hallway behind them had changed. It was now lined with lockers. From inside each one came the sound of fists pounding. Screams. Begging. Ash turned around. The 13th door was gone. Only a blank wall remained. His phone buzzed. One notification: class in session. Period, eternal. And the time still read, 12:13 a.m. The phone went dead. Leo held it, frozen, as if the receiver might bite him. The others stared. The silence in the room wasn't natural. It was the kind of silence you get at the top of a roller coaster just before the fall. Ash stepped back toward the class roster. His name was still there. Beneath it, a new line burned slowly into existence. Substitute Elise whispered. "They're recruiting teachers now." Ash turned to the others. "No. They're replacing them. We're being slotted into a pattern." I rang the bell. I became part of it. But someone made the pattern. He pointed back at the portrait of Ms. Abernathy. She was the first. She started all of this. Jenna shook her head. "We need to destroy everything in this room. All the records. Everything." Leo had been quiet. He now said, "That won't be enough." They looked at him. He pointed at the wall. More of the bricks had begun to blacken, as if fire were blooming beneath the plaster. "The school is reacting. It knows what we found." The rusted desk in the corner had shifted slightly. Beneath it was a trapdoor. None of them had noticed it before, not even on the blueprints. Not that blueprints mattered anymore. Ash yanked it open. A metal ladder descended into darkness. "No way," Jenna said. "We're not going back underground." Elise moved toward the opening. "If this is where they stored the real faculty records, maybe we can find proof of what happened in 1973. The fire, the experiments, the disappearances. There were always rumors, right, that the school was doing something occult before it burned." Ash turned on his flashlight. "One last dive. If there's nothing down there, we walk." Agreed. No one agreed. But no one argued. They descended. The air was worse than the boiler room. This wasn't just musty or stale. It was dead. Like the air hadn't been breathed in decades. Their lights illuminated a long stone corridor that looked like it was carved by hand by students, maybe, or prisoners. Along the walls, more names. Not just students, staff. Hundreds. And scratched beneath them, absent. All except one. Her name glowed faintly in the dark: M. Abernathy, present. Ash turned to the others. She never left. They found the archive chamber at the end of the corridor. It was circular, almost a twin to the bell forge room. But here, instead of bells, were desks, rows and rows of ancient oak desks, each with an inkwell and a roster. Jenna picked up one of the rosters. Her hands trembled. "These aren't just staff lists. They're curriculums." Each desk had a student list next to it. Names they didn't recognize, but a few they did. One desk had Leo's name. Another had Jenna's. Elise pulled open one drawer and found something wrapped in cloth. It was a bell. But not brass bone. Smooth, white, shaped from a human vertebra. Runes etched into it vibrated when touched. Ash reached for it. Elise grabbed his wrist. "Don't. Every bell is a contract." I already rang one, Ash whispered. What's one more? Before either could move, a scraping sound echoed behind them. A figure stepped from the shadows. Not a ghost. Not a hallucination. A woman in black, face mostly hidden beneath a veil. One hand burned down to bone, the other holding a teacher's pointer. Ms. Abernathy. I never left, she said, and the air froze. Jenna screamed. Leo stumbled backward, hitting one of the old desks. It flipped, cracking loudly. Ash stepped in front of Elise, bell still in hand. Abernathy stepped forward, dragging her pointer across the stone floor. You rang the bell, Ash. You welcomed the lesson. But you've not completed your assignment. Ash held the bone bell high. Let us go. Or I ring this. Abernathy tilted her head. You don't understand. That one doesn't call the class. That one ends it. Elise gasped. That's the final bell. Abernathy raised her skeletal hand. One more ring, and the walls fall. The cycle breaks. But so do you. All of you. The school exists because the bell tolls. If it ever stops. The room began to collapse inward, stone crumbling, air vanishing, the oxygen fleeing. Ash looked at the others. I'll ring it. No. Elise shouted. There might be another way. But he was already ringing. The bone bell cried out like a scream of metal on bone, like a child's shriek underwater, like nothing. And then the world stopped. When Ash opened his eyes, he was in a classroom. A normal classroom. Sunlight poured in. Desks, whiteboards, overhead projector. Jenna sat at a desk near the window. Leo stood at the front. Elise paced with her phone in hand. What? Ash whispered. The clock read, 8:14 a.m. A new school day. Jenna looked up. Ash. You okay? Ash blinked. You remember it? Jenna nodded slowly. Leo said, we're back. But something's changed. Elise showed him her phone. No strange notifications. No messages. No fire. But in the distance on the quad was the old bell. Polished. New. Someone had restored it? Ash clenched his fist. The scar on his palm was gone. But behind his eyes he could still hear it. Ding. The world was ash and echo. Ash's scream hadn't finished when he hit the auditorium floor, the bell's final toll still vibrating through the walls. He lay on the broken stage, ribs cracked, lungs heaving. And the clock above the curtain, massive, antique, red-faced, read, 12:13 a.m. Again. Still. Always. He sat up slowly. There was no wind. No air, not really. The sky above the open ceiling was a swirling void the color of bruised bone, and the seats before him, hundreds of them, were filled. Not with students. Not with faculty. But shadows. Outlines. Classes long forgotten. Every seat was taken by someone lost to the fire, the curse, the cycle. Ash wasn't alone on the stage. Elise lay a few feet away, unconscious but breathing. Jenna was propped against a shattered piano, blood on her shoulder. Leo stood, but he wasn't moving. Just staring into the crowd. They're waiting, he said. Waiting for us to finish class. Ash rose. We broke the bell. We stopped it. Jenna coughed, bitter. No. We triggered the final lesson. Behind them, the velvet curtains parted. There was no backstage. Only her. She no longer wore the veil. Her face was burned into a permanent smile, stretched too wide, teeth too many. Her eyes were 2 old candle wicks long burned, but still smoldering. She raised her pointer. It gleamed like obsidian. "Class," she said sweetly, "has begun." The auditorium doors slammed shut. The lights flared red. And the blackboard behind her scrawled its own lesson plan in crimson chalk. Ash turned to the others. "There's always been one who takes the place of the instructor. One who rings the bell. That's how this cycle continues." Elise, now awake, whispered, "And if no one takes the place?" Leo answered, "Then the class fails. The school burns again. With us in it?" Ms. Abernathy stepped forward. Her feet didn't touch the ground. Her voice filled the minds of everyone. "There must always be a teacher. There must always be a bell. One of you will stay. Or all of you will burn." She raised her hand. And the audience of shadows began to rise. Desks appeared. Just appeared. In the middle of the stage. 4 of them. One for each of them. Their names burned into the wood. Ash. Elise. Jenna. Leo. Ash backed away. "We're not sitting." Jenna pulled her phone. Useless. No signal. No clock. Elise looked at the board. New words were forming. Instructions: answer in truth. Pass, and you leave. Lie, and another will die. Refuse, and all remain. A ticking began. Not from the auditorium clock. From inside their chests. Question 1, Ash. Ms. Abernathy floated above him. "Why did you ring the bone bell, Ash?" He gritted his teeth. "To stop you." The chalkboard hissed. Incorrect. Ms. Abernathy leaned close. "You rang it because you wanted to be seen. You wanted power. You didn't want to feel helpless anymore." The shadows in the seats nodded. Ash gasped as a searing pain ripped through his side. The burn returned brighter. The desk began to sink into the floor. "Next," she whispered. Question 2, Elise. Ms. Abernathy turned to Elise. "You documented all of this. Took photos. Recorded screams. Why?" Elise's voice cracked. "To survive. I needed proof." The board scratched again. "Lying. You did it to remember. Because you knew you'd forget them." Images bloomed on the back wall. Elise's old friends. Ones who didn't make it out of a previous year. Names she hadn't spoken in a decade. Faces she forgot. "No." She whispered. "They were gone. They were never real." "They were," Ms. Abernathy said. "But the school took your memory as payment." Elise collapsed. Her desk ignited in blue flame. She didn't burn, but emptiness poured from her eyes. She forgot again. Question 3, Leo. "You saw it in the tower," Abernathy said. "The keeper showed you everything. And still, you came. Why?" Leo didn't hesitate. "Because if we didn't stop it, no one would. I knew the cost." Silence. Then the board marked, "Truth." Leo exhaled. But his desk didn't vanish. Abernathy smiled. "Truth earns knowledge. Not freedom." A new brand etched across his arm, 13th instructor. Leo fell to one knee, whispering, "I'm the next teacher." Final question, Jenna. "You ran." "At the door." "At the archive?" Even at the boiler, Abernathy said. Why come back each time? Jenna's voice was small. Because they're my friends. The board paused. Then burned, true. And false. You came back, Abernathy said, because you knew something would take your place if you didn't tease someone weaker. Someone like your sister. The image on the wall changed. A girl. Younger. Same eyes. Jenna screamed. No. I kept her away, and now you'll join us instead. The offer. The blackboard cleared. Choose one, take the role. Burn with the school. Ring the final bell. Ash looked at the others. Elise couldn't remember her name. Jenna was sobbing. Leo was already half changed. And Ash still heard the bell ringing in his bones. He stood. Walked to Ms. Abernathy. Your time is over. She smiled wider. And who will take my place? Ash held up the piece of the bone bell he kept hidden since the archives. The final shard. He placed it in his mouth like a seed. And whispered, let it end. The last toll. The final ring wasn't a sound. It was absence. It erased the air. The students. The auditorium. Abernathy screamed, but it was swallowed. And the bell tower crumbled from the inside. The fire didn't come. Only light. And then. Epilogue. The students woke in their dorms. Alive. The school was silent. No bell tower. No faculty wing. No trace. Elise remembered everything. Jenna clutched a photo of her sister. Leo had no scar. Ash was gone. Only a note remained, burned into the chalkboard, class dismissed.